amending the site condominium to create that new parcel and to modify the access. At a later date, the applicant will be returning to the Planning Commission with a site plan for a future Goodwill establishment. But the site plan is not on the agenda tonight. We are only looking at access and the arrangement of the parcels within the Cherry Meadows condominium. So this body doesn't address anything with the condominium bylaws, their master deed, all of that is private. We are simply looking at the resolution to amend that condominium. Within the resolution that you have, it's pretty straightforward. It reviews the history of this development. It talks about the new Unit 7 being that combination. It continues to require things like sidewalks on Cherry Meadows. It continues to require that there be access and driveways to that the commercial development. It talks about the cul-de-sac terminating at new Unit 7 and that the pavement extension so that the fire truck can turn around at that T intersection at the end of Clover Court. It also talks about screening at the north property line of Unit 7. That was also something that was in the previous site condominium requirements. And it also states that any project in this development would have to conform with our zoning ordinance. So it is pretty straightforward, but I know that we have some neighbors here. Again, we're not discussing uses. The uses in here are continuing to be the uses that were permitted for years past. We're not changing that in any way. It continues to be a office, business, retail, office park with the uses that are permitted in the Broadmoor and Cherry Valley overlay. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. If you'd like me to show you anything on the plans, I'm happy to.
I did have one question because I remember the discussions with the neighbors.
Yep.
I remember that the requirement for the connection out of that commercial development was something that was added in the past as part of approval. Was that strictly for emergency access, or were there other reasons that was added? I think that was before I was on the commission.
Believe, and Todd, our township engineer, is also here, who had some discussions with our fire chief on that. It was mostly my understanding for the purpose of providing that emergency access.
Yeah, that's correct. But also on Clover Court existing, they don't have an adequate turnaround right now. And so this was a way to solve both, and with less pavement is to do a connection. So that was, at the time, seemed like a pretty good idea, but you know, we've reviewed it with the fire chief. We've modified by adding a short stub for a turnaround that would meet the fire code on the Goodwill site, while still, you know, I guess providing turnaround for both streets.
I'm just coloring in right there where that little bit of pavement would be added. So again, there's no connection. This cul-de-sac ends. You also have some easements that are in place. A building would be built over here. The cul-de-sac, there's no other pavement connection. This is just on the other side of Clover Court, so that a fire truck could come in Clover Court and be able to make a turnaround without having to reverse.
Any other thoughts on
I just have a question, probably also for Todd. Based on the widening that's coming with M37 and additional easements, how, if any, does that affect setbacks on a previously approved PUD, especially if it's coming in for a combination and changes and that type of stuff?
The subsequent submittal of a goodwill will have the MDOT changes and any right-of-way changes identified on it. I do believe, and I actually, in my review letter, and hopefully as a condition, that the whole PUD be updated to reflect that by the time that that site plan comes in. So that, you know, just, I don't think there's major impacts on this site, but it would be good to reflect the M37 improvements on the next site plan and on the PUD plan, or I'm sorry, on the site development plan as well.
John, I have a couple questions.
Sure, go right ahead.
Lene, being a maps person, when I get any of this stuff, the first thing I do is I go to Google Maps, and then I go to the county's GIS maps. So I can see parcels, I can see what's where. And I'm confused with the street names. So from the county's GIS map, the road that goes north and south on the east side of Taco Bell, the credit union, I'm not finding a name for that street. I am finding the street name of Cherry Meadow for the north-south road that goes east of the dentist. So that has me confused about the site plan that it's written, comments that I've seen from the neighbors, and I'm not clear on that, and I'm sorry.
No, I will check with the county and their GIS system about those road names. So when we talk about this Cherry Meadow Drive, I believe it is the east-west, but is also this one that is the cul-de-sac that is not named.
Okay.
But that's something I can check with the county about.
And the reason that's important is because my understanding is that the concern is for the people who live on Clover want access to M37, which from what I can see on the GIS map, they do have. Now, maybe the map is out of date because it's out of date for other things as well. So my misunderstanding has access to the east and access to the west, based on what I see on the GIS map.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the item at issue tonight is that they don't want any access through this, through,
And that they
Yeah.
do want a cul-de-sac. Is that what I'm understanding?
well,
Yeah.
the cul-de-sac is not on their property, but it's necessary to avoid a direct connection through from the commercial development into Jasonville. Is that correct? So the cul-de-sac is solving a problem that was created when we had asked for connectivity through both sites.
Okay, and again, it can be my misunderstanding,
Well, I do see
because I did
even
not
on,
drive through there last
yeah, I
yesterday.
do see even on the, like Google Maps, Cherry Meadow Drive is labeled where Cherry Mead is on this plan. So some of this is a function of Google and others, so.
And I don't have a problem with Google being wrong, because they're wrong regularly. My problem is when the county maps are wrong.
Yeah, yeah. we
And I
will
want to make
definitely-
sure that what we're receiving from the developer and what we're conveying with the residents
Yes.
is correct and accurate.
Absolutely, yep. Yes, so the plans prior to this one, the most immediate plan prior to this one had that cul-de-sac extended to where that boxes that I colored in. And basically that road connected to the rear of Cherry Meadow, to Clover Court and those condos. Which is not the case in this proposal, that connection would not be made. Which our understanding is that is favored by the neighbors, because a few years ago when Portland Credit Union came in, we heard from residents that that was something that they were not in favor of. They did not want to see vehicles connecting behind and through the garages, the garage access way.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion with the commission? If not, I think we should open the public hearing and ask anybody who would like to speak on this issue to step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and feel free to say whatever's on your mind.
Hello, Board. My name's Tom Grias, and I am the dental officer of 6477 Cherry Meadow. So we are Cherry Meadow there, so I don't know if it continues. I just wanted to talk about that Clover Drive, and I do see how the initial planning to have a road going between the apartments and the garage just isn't very ideal. It's not very safe, and so I do believe that a cul-de-sac would be nice there. I just don't know if the board is aware of some discussion that was done like 20 years ago, and now with the M37 improvements, and this may not even be talked, but with having the easement on the other side of Clover Drive, I know there's been some talk to close off the triangle, I'm going to call it the United Bank Triangle there, and it would seem the most ideal time to consider that if there was a way to use this donated land, which I want to talk about too, it's a little bit of a curve, but if the easement is there and with the M37 improvements, I don't know if you've put to sleep that closing off the triangle, but if you didn't, I think this would be the only time we could ever consider connecting, because eventually the farm that's south of us is going to be developed with that nice, and there's going to be a road that's going to continue in front of the ENT building there. And so I just want to make sure the board is aware that at one time there was talk about closing the triangle, the United Big Triangle, and this would be a nice connection if possible. I don't know, it's not my expertise, but I just wanted to make that aware. Instead of an emergency turnaround there, it would be access going that way. What I am here for, and I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but it's this turnaround is affecting our business park because the developer hasn't, in my opinion, finished her responsibilities of creating the infrastructure, and that's part of the infrastructure. Usually when people develop a business park, the roads are in, the turnarounds are in, and then we buy, and it's in the price of the property. And so there's been, and I know that the owner that wants to donate those properties to Goodwill, there may be some legal involvement. I just wanted you guys to be involved or aware of it, because it almost makes me feel like the owner of 7 and 8, and I'm just saying this, is trying to get rid of this property to get out of the responsibility of finishing the development. And I hope that Goodwill is aware of that, because it's just not right. So I just wanted to bring that up. And there have been other kind of unorthodox dealings in the 17, 18 years that we've owned the property. One being that the original deed said no fast food restaurants in the front, but then that got changed, and we have an auto zone. It was supposed to be a professional business park. Now we got an auto zone and a Taco Bell. That's another story. That's been changed. And then the other thing that people may not be aware of, but that lots 7 and 8 was never in the original business park, but there was some behind the scenes deal with Rydell at Jasonville Farms that Sherlock Company was going to put his road in to the east of us, and Rydell was going to give him that property because at that time, before the housing crash, Spectrum, which is now Corewell, wanted to have a medical facility there, and they were close to doing that. So Sherlock Companies bought that for that purpose, and then the housing market crashed, and then that all just went away. So they've been stuck with these 2 lots. And so there's a lot of stuck being here, and now the stuck is gonna get a little legally hairy because all of us from PFCU and from the NTs and Pine Rest and our building, we don't feel like it's our responsibility to put in the infrastructure that's been delayed in being put in, because I know the board has wanted something there. As soon as PFCU got in there, there's no place to turn around a fire truck or an emergency truck. So I'm just here to tell you guys a little history if you're not aware of it, and just to open up that box of a little bit of disappointment that we've experienced over the past 20 years in that property. It's been great, and we love the community, of course. I think we beautify the community, and I love it here. But there's gonna be, hopefully there's nothing, but this just sounds a little bit sneaky like the rest of the stuff that happened, and it's like money makes laws and laws don't make laws, and I just don't want it to happen again, because the Taco Bell thing wasn't supposed to be there, and I don't know if there's been some other issues, so I'm just here like representing our property, and also I believe that the other property owners in our business park feel the same way, that is this gonna be a sticky situation because she's donating this to Goodwill? And what's gonna happen, is it gonna delay a fire turnaround because there's gonna be legal involvement here if she's expecting us to finish her development and just be free of it, you know? So
Well,
this is
thank
our
you.
story.
I appreciate
Okay.
your input.
Okay,
and
thanks, guys.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming. Any other public comments?
Hi, my name's Jill Wallace. I'm the president and CEO at Goodwill of Greater Grand Rapids. I've been with Goodwill for 19 years. I've been in this position for just over a year. I'm going to give you a very brief snapshot of Goodwill. We're a local nonprofit. We've been around for 60 years. We operate 17 retail stores, and we have 1 outlet. Our mission is to provide job training and placement services for individuals with barriers to employment. And every dollar spent at Goodwill, 90 cents of that goes directly back into our mission. We would be able to create 25 to 35 jobs here locally in Caledonia with this new facility. And this store would really just help us further our mission and help us continue to serve more people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Aaron Taylor with Pure Architects, consulting with Goodwill. There is a small presentation in front of you. I don't know if it would be appropriate just to plug in really quickly.
I really don't think it is tonight.
Okay, great.
We're not considering anything of the future use. We're talking about the specific thing, the issues that's in front of us, which is this
Yeah.
request for a change of the PUD.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Dee Walter. I own a condo, 6585 Clover Court. And I am here because I don't understand everything that's happening. And there's a lot of residents over Clover Court and the rest of Jasonville that don't understand, because there's a lot of talk on Facebook and whatnot. And one is saying they're gonna open up Clover Court, coming right through, and another one is saying, no, they did that a couple years ago. No, they're not going to open up Clover Court that can come all the way through. That's one thing that I don't understand. What you're saying about a turnaround, are you specifically talking about opening Clover Court, or it is not being open? Because that's what I understood, that I tried to write on our Facebook page, and a couple other people wrote back and said, no, they are going to open it. Then one other issue that has been brought up with some residents at our monthly meetings is there was, when the credit union went up, there was voted on supposed to be a berm that was put up and trees that were put up to block the view. I didn't hear anything about that, but again, people were saying that. So that again is my question. Was that voted on a few years ago, that was supposed to be done? And that's what I have.
If that's the end of your questions?
Yes.
The berm was on the M37 side. It was installed and the trees are there. If we don't act tonight on this requirement or this request, the status quo is that the developer is supposed to make a connection through to your neighborhood. He's asking us permission to not do that.
To open it.
to not open
to
it.
not open it, the
Yes.
developer.
Right now, he's required to make that connection unless he gets his PUD changed. So he's come to us to ask us to make that change.
Okay. Because on Clover Court, those two condominiums that are there are both handicap, which not all of them are. And I know in my particular building, we have a resident who is in a wheelchair. And when he comes out of the front door, the first thing that he faces are cars that are parked out front, which he has to get through those cars to his garage. And if cars were coming through, fire truck, anything like that, fire truck he would see, cars he would not. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
say that
I think it would, I mean, this is,
pretty
you're
much.
saying the same thing that we heard 2 years ago. And
Yes,
and we
because
did
I was
listen.
here then
Yes.
also.
So
And then I have one last question about the new water from Grand Rapids.
I don't think
Can't talk
any of
about
us
that.
can help you with any of that
Okay,
at this
thank
point.
you.
Sorry.
Good evening, I'm from PFCU. We're at 9077 Charlotte Highway in Portland, Michigan. I'm here just in front of the commission to just state for record that kind of talking about what Tom was saying here. PFCU's concerns and the other co-owners is avoiding a situation where formalizing, because we're expected to formalize an association of the condominium. And there's a date that's kind of set up for that already. So because of the bylaws and other things that you alluded to, mentioned some, responsibilities of the developer and all of that. So we do not want to then unexpectedly prematurely form this association, and then we would have to adhere to the expenses that are outstanding that are responsibility of the developer. So we just wanted to kind of mention that for the record, that there is a timeline. And as earlier Elena mentioned that we don't have any plans or any depictions or photos that are available to us. So, or a formal agreement from Goodwill. I know there's a letter of intent. That gives us a little bit of pause and concern. We want to take care of the property. We are co-owners. We want to get going on that and meet our responsibilities. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But I hope the commission hears our concern that there is an expense side to this that we don't inadvertently want to be a part of. So we just hope that you kind of kindly take a look at that.
I can appreciate that. I'm not sure we are the body that can help you with that.
Okay,
Quite
well,
frank.
I guess the letter of intent was with this, that we want to make sure the cul-de-sac is there. We want, as per the fire chief, we want to make sure we meet that objective, but I just wanted to get it in the record. And I understand that it's probably a conversation with Goodwill, but I just wanted to mention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other interested parties? Well, thank you all. We'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion with the commission?
Yeah, the only thing I guess I'm still not quite certain of is where's existing 7 and 8?
They're combined into 7 here. This is the new plan, the old plan, they're both on that same lot.
Okay, so there's no leftover portions of 8 or anything else. All we're doing is basically taking the
7 and 8
7 and 8
combining.
and just combining them together.
And I guess I would assume the combination is because the cul-de-sac takes up space and maybe they don't have enough room for two. The turnaround takes up space. I don't know.
Unit
Yeah,
7 and 8
here's the
are
previous plan.
depicted on a previous plan there.
Well, yeah, and it looks
Oh,
like
I
it looks like the turnaround was there even then.
This was dated in 2024. I don't think this was ever acted on by the planning commission.
Okay,
Then here's where that.
got it. All right, appreciate it, thanks.
Well, as always, things can get fraught on these things. I think it's important for us to remember that what we're doing is acting on this request for a change to the PUD. Do other commissioners have any thoughts on any leverage we might be giving up by approving this.
I still have more questions on the M37 property taking and the true boundary. It looks like there's a 75-foot setback for any new building from M37. And I'm not convinced that the print that I have is what's developable, because I think the property transaction has already happened. So I have a really hard time acting on what I think is wrong information.
We do not have, we have a space in the resolution. This is actually a site condo amendment. It is not a
I'm sorry.
PUD. That's
I beg your
okay,
pardon.
because it's mislabeled on our zoning map. It's actually a site condo.
Okay.
In the resolution, it does make reference to revising this plan to reflect the new MDOT boundary with the M37 expansion. And it does require that we get the new legal description, which we do not have for that. So there's a space there on page 3 for that to be completed before it gets to the board.
Well, that gives me more comfort because I get to be on 2 committees, but I don't know if it gives the whole planning commission that comfort.
Well, you know, I don't think anybody is opposed to the concept of this remedy. Tim, if you're satisfied that there's enough information that you're not completely in the blind, we could potentially consider a motion, or we could table this until we get enough information to give us a good confidence that we're doing the right thing. I don't want to kick the can down the road, though.
Does the applicant have an update about the MDOT property?
We have been in contact with them and.
Can you step to the, sorry.
Yeah. Dave Bridge, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Goodwill. I haven't been in contact with MDOT, and they've told us that we are not part of the MDOT boundaries. They originally thought we were, but once they re-looked at it, they said no. So we've had nothing to do with MDOT since that conversation.
Does that seem accurate to you, Todd?
I know that Portland Federal Credit Union had
And
shave
and
off
Taco Bell,
Taco
both.
Bell and AutoZone.
Correct.
Now, that's all depicted on this plan, and it should be updated, but it wouldn't impact the Goodwill site.
Right.
I do believe that that is the case, but I didn't know that for sure. I
That's
hadn't
from
seen a
phone
plan
discussions,
transit.
correct.
Okay. I would say that would be something that you would want your engineer to confirm.
We can
but,
do that.
Yeah, before coming back.
But we have that as a condition in the resolution.
Correct.
Okay. Well, given that, I would entertain a motion if anybody has a thought to make one.
Make a motion to approve the request?
Motion to approve change to the site condominium recommendation to the township. Is there a second for that?
Support.
And is this a roll call?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Stan?
Support.
Tim?
Yes.
Donovan?
Yes.
Sorry, Leanne.
I vote no.
Okay. The motion does carry. Thank you all for participating.
Did you vote?
Oh, I vote
Beverly,
yes.
yes.
I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, I vote yes. I knew that in my head. What can I tell you? Let's move on. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. This is an updated resolution for preliminary site condominium review and consideration for Patterson Place, 7528 Patterson Avenue Southeast. Applicant is Mark Pung.
I'll just give a brief overview. This is a red line version of the resolution that was before the Planning Commission on January 5th. At that meeting on January 5th, the applicant had questions, comments, and did not support some of the items that were in the resolution. Since that time, we have asked the applicant to prepare a red line and markup of the resolution and present that to the Planning Commission for consideration, for discussion. So with that, I know the applicant and their engineer is here today and would like to discuss their proposed changes. A little bit of background, I know, Mr. Eberly, you weren't here at the last meeting, is that you did approve a resolution for site condominium for Patterson Place in July. Between July and January, we realized that the phasing was not addressed in the resolution. References to the phasing plan and how the sequencing of utilities would be accomplished on the project was not included in the resolution. And then the other item that was incorrect in that resolution is that it listed private roads, even though these are just access ways. They're not private roads, and I realize that they're labeled here, and that probably needs to change it. But in the resolution, these are all called access ways because the private road requirements would not be applicable here. They wouldn't be met. So they're just access ways like most multifamily developments have. So with that, the engineer, Todd Stibbe's here.
Oh, good evening. I'm just going to go through some of the changes that were made to the plan. Mark Pung is here and can talk about the master deed and bylaws changes that have also been presented after I'm done. I don't know if this will get any bigger or not, but so there we go. So phase one, what we've done is identified clearly, and we did it in color just to help. Phase one is buildings 1 through 10, which is this area here in red. So phase two is this area in blue here, units or buildings 11 through 19. So that would complete this southerly or easterly loop, sorry. And then phase three would be buildings in this area, green. That would be buildings 20 through 28. So that's the plan for the phasing of the project from a building and roadway perspective. Phase one would include all of the pathway along 76th and the pathway up to this point here, the end of phase one. So that would be included in phase one. The other thing that was added and clarified is there's a water main requirement to build water main from this point to Whispering, I never get this name right, Whispering Stream Lane. That would be included in phase one. However, the completion of it, we're proposing, would be prior to allowing the last 3 building permits in phase one. So that's a caveat that you would have to approve. But the main, though, ultimately, to bring it down to here would be part of phase one. And then in phase two, we're proposing to complete the construction of the pathway across the phase three frontage. And complete the water main loop, which at that point would be from here to here. We would, in phase two, that water main loop would be completed, which would tie the whole system together. So that's, those are the primary phasing considerations that we've outlined in the resolution. One thing I didn't mention, this open space pathway would be part of phase 2 construction as well. I know that as far as the master deed and bylaws are concerned, there's some very specific restrictions on short-term rentals and also on the ownership model. No one person can own more than 2 units. So that's all been revised in the master deed and bylaws. And I will let Mark answer any questions related to that, if there are any. So yeah, with that, that's where we're at.
Well, do you have any questions for the developer? Do you have any thoughts first?
The drawings in front of us are really just intended to help phasing the previous ones approved in July 2025 still generally supersede besides the phasing part. Is that accurate? And the basis of my question is there's just no landscaping plan, and I recall seeing one in the past, so.
Yes, correct. These are exhibits to help articulate where those phasing lines are. We would have the same civil plans. Well, they're not fully civil, but all of the detailed plans that were approved with the site condo and project would continue.
So the real request here is to defer some of the utility work
Yes,
until later phases.
yes. And the applicant offered, no, we don't stipulate as a township whether rentals can occur or not, right? It's part of the property rights. But the applicant is offering that limitation on short-term rentals and the ownership mix as a consideration for the planning commission too.
Well, I've been in and out of this. I was originally recused on this because
that's right.
I worked for the folks that did the
And
first
Tim, too.
design before I retired. So I think I was here in July, and I was active on this in July when we talked about it.
Yeah.
And I guess the concern is always, we sequence things and ask for things in an order when we do give permission for something like this to make sure they're gonna get finished. And the concern is saying, well, okay, you don't have to do that now. You can do that later. Well, I understand if I was trying to develop this, I would want as much freedom as I could get, but at the same time, we don't want to end up with a half-finished development that doesn't have utilities at any point. So I don't know, what does the rest of the commission think about this?
I got a couple of questions. Mine mainly revolve around the water main. You talked about 2 different things. This is the gentleman that was speaking earlier. You talked about in phase 2, bringing out the extension to Orchard,
Whispering something.
Stream.
Yeah, okay. And then you also talked about later on completing the loop within the development. Are those 2 different things, or is that the same thing?
They are 2 different things.
Okay, go ahead.
The piece of water main, Todd, I don't remember how long it is, 700?
1,300 feet.
1,300 feet. This would be completed prior to allowing the last 3 building permits in phase 1. So it's technically part of phase 1.
But that 1,300 feet is only basically to extend out the water system for future use, right, for an adjacent property owner?
Well, it's for an ultimate loop, right? I'll let Todd explain it more, but the current system is looped. This is a secondary loop, if you will, that's ultimately going to be required. So this piece would go in during the construction of phase 1, prior to phase 2. And when phase 2 goes in, the requirement is that we would complete this loop as part of phase 2. So this really is phase one, just delayed. This is in phase two. It's, the water main is then complete.
But the loop, the extension to the next loop is imperative or part of our water planning system, right? We need that?
Yeah, it's,
I mean, it's not something really optional, it's something we're requiring them to do, right? We want this loop
that-
done?
Yeah, that's right. And in the near term, it'll serve homes along that route as well.
All right, so basically, if they go ahead and they phase this out, and they're talking about doing their internal loop here, that's essentially, is that to service phase two? Is that what that internal loop is for, or is that internal loop also part of like a water system requirement?
Both.
Okay, so essentially they can't, I mean, just to speak frankly here, I mean, if they delay this loop, that doesn't seem to be, until they start phase two or complete phase two, that doesn't seem to be, to me, such a big problem, because if they don't get it off the ground, they'll never develop out phase two, and we'll just have a uncompleted phase two and phase three. But the one that really, to me, is a bit problematic is this 1,300 feet that they're talking about has to be extended out. If that doesn't get done in the outset and the developer runs out of money on this development, then we're gonna have 1,300 feet that we don't have looped in, right? I mean, and that's really to the benefit of our system, it's not to the benefit of the developer. So, but it's a requirement that we have for them to get this thing going. So to me, that seems like a no-go on essentially delaying that 1,300-foot extension until completion. That seems to me like it should be a requirement before they can start the project.
Yeah, can you explain why you would condition that on permits for the last three buildings on that phase one? I don't understand that.
Yeah, Mark, you wanna get that?
Mark Pong, the idea was to tie it to phase one, but to give us a little bit of leeway, just to get the project. When we were talking originally, when we originally talked about the phases, I was told that we did not have to complete the loop until we did phase three. And then it was changed that a performance bond would be required. And then when I came to the January 5th meeting, that's when it had to be extended. So there's been a couple different directions, still trying to tie it to phase one and still to make it feasible, is why I'm proposing tying it to the last three buildings of phase one.
So essentially, I mean, in your development, in your cash flow plan or whatever, your model for this, I mean, you really have to sell out the first 7 buildings in phase one before you'd be able to essentially be able to pay for that extension of the line. I'm not faulting you at all. I mean, I realize it's an expensive, project. I'm just trying to, we just have to ensure that what's proposed gets done.
Right. I mean, I would be good with a performance bond, tying it to that. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do a performance bond, it's just that leeway, because it wasn't planned, and so just trying to get this thing. We don't have to wait to the last 3 buildings, but that's what I'm proposing.
I mean, I personally don't have a problem, I mean, if they're gonna bond the project, I mean, if there's gonna be, a completion bond, I mean, that to me is just as good as, if I have a surety saying that they're gonna complete it, that's just as good.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with the back and forth on, different requirements. I don't know if anybody else has any remembrance of that.
My understanding, and this is a long project, and you and I had to recuse ourselves for a portion of the time, so the details are definitely foggier for two reasons for me, but I thought that the developer was gonna run water main from Whispering Stream all the way through the development to create that loop, and at least on the initial submittal, it was all at one time. But, we have a different phasing plan in front of us now. So, yeah.
So if you were to build those first 7 buildings, how would you serve them? Do they get served from the west for water?
Well, they get along 76th Street.
Okay.
That's the water main that tied into the school. So it gets service from there. And along Patterson Avenue is to complete that loop.
Right.
And then I know some of the concern was as far as rentals, that's why that was offered. Trying to strike a balance between, one extreme is to allow no one to rent their units at all. That's why, no short-term rentals, short-term being any shorter than 6 months. And then limiting ownership. There was a concern about somebody coming in and buying multiple units, multiple buildings, so no one person or entity can own more than 2 units. And even if somebody bought 2 units, they can't rent both out. Put in there that they must live in one if they're gonna rent out the other. And then there was one other, but it is trying to address, the other thing is, as a developer, rather than leaving it open-ended, all of this is, the demand is there according to everything that I see. Caledonia is very desirable, seems to be a very big demand for housing. If things turn, the building phase of this is, I am building one building, and until a certain number of pre-sales, we don't start a second building because I don't want empty buildings. There is verbiage in the bylaws that state it's not open-ended. I can't build 5 buildings and rent out 5 buildings. It's limited to 1 building or 4 units, thinking if something doesn't sell, at least getting some, but it's not where I can do multiple buildings and rent out multiple buildings. I don't think it's gonna be a problem, but trying to allow some leeway while also addressing I don't want any ambiguity. I'm not trying to rent these out. I wanna sell these as fast as we can build them. Not that this matters, but it matters to me. These buildings, we've been building energy efficient buildings for 20 years. These will be in the top 3% in the state for energy efficiency. It's important to me. Is it something where you can sell them for more? Probably not, because if we build units, we're selling as spec, but it's important to me. So, but I don't want to rent these, so I'm putting in the verbiage, proposing the bylaws to address that. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. Then circling back to the water main, still want to tie it to phase 1, but that's my thinking there.
So you're proposing that you would do it as part of phase 1, but not as the first part of phase 1. That's all you're saying?
Yes.
And did you say that there would be a surety bond for that part of the project regardless?
Performance bond, yes.
Performance bond?
What do you mean by a performance bond?
Well, it'll be, if I don't finish it, that kicks in. When they
Okay,
finish
so
it.
it'll be like a completion type bond, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
how would that be defined? What if you built unit 1 and 2 and then you paused for 3 years? What time, at what point is it require bankruptcy, or is it a time duration thing? How does that work?
You have to call Denny Mapes before you can answer that.
If we're building 2 buildings and not building anymore, there's a lot bigger issues going on.
Yeah.
But I don't know the technical, it would have to be tied to something. That is all, yeah, it's one of the reasons why I still wanted to tie it to phase 1. And then, yeah, so.
Well, that's always the issue. It comes down to, kind of what are the terms of that. I think that's a good thing to point out. I mean, the easiest way is just, you build it out, it's done, it's passed, you transfer over the ask to the improvement over the municipal authority, and we don't have to worry about when's it gonna get completed and all that other sort of stuff. But to me, I mean, I think it's totally acceptable if we do have a completion bond, and the completion bond is reviewed by township's attorney, and, we got satisfaction that it is gonna be completed, because, again, I mean, an acceptable period of time to me, I mean, is, whatever our necessary timetable is on, what we're doing with our general water project and all that other sort of stuff, whatever that, if it's 36 months, then, 36 months is, the bond that they would have to purchase. So, it's not gonna be free. I mean, that bond is, again, I mean, that's gonna be the developer's choice, but that to me is the only way that I think is that I could, with a good conscience, pass on a phased project here, is if I know that water main loop is gonna get completed.
I mean, I'd be very good with a 36-month time frame. I mean, and then tying it to.
Like 36 months from project start?
Yep.
All right, I mean, that to me, I mean, is, unless there's some quicker requirement that we would have for the water project, I mean, I don't.
And the flip side, or not the flip side, but we get to the 7th building, we're going to be planning the 2nd phase, and I'm saying that loop is going to be completed during the site work.
Oh,
of phase
absolutely.
2.
If
So it's
everything goes according to Hoyle, you're not gonna have any trouble at all. I mean, you're gonna
Right.
be, you're gonna beat that 36 months, easily, and you're gonna be doing the extension on it. We're not gonna be talking to the, to the bonding company. Nobody's gonna be having any conversations. You're gonna, if everything goes according to projection, and I hope that it does.
So what I'm hearing is you're suggesting we approve this subject to a performance bond?
That's what I would, yeah, that's what, performance bond, 36-month completion time frame, and then, subject to attorney review.
And are we talking about the entire water loop being done in that time frame, or just the section along?
I'm just thinking it's that section on Patterson there.
Because, the township is counting on the part that runs through the development to complete the loop.
Oh, well, then tell me something, then.
I mean, that's.
Make sure we're informed, because I don't want to be doing this wrong.
Is that true that we're counting on the connection through the development for the loop, or is it strictly what's down Patterson?
The development through, the loop through the development is more in support of phase 1 of the development and.
Okay.
Or phase 1, 2, and 3, and also along those
I
homes along.
I misunderstood
Patterson.
something you said earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Because through Whispering Stream is the loop, it's already looped through.
yeah, there was
Morgan
a
Woods West.
project that made 76th Street and all the homes along it on a larger loop through Morgan Woods, through Whispering Stream, so that major loop has been accomplished.
I mean, obviously, he's not gonna be able to sell any, units in phases 2 or 3 without, those improvements being completed.
Right.
I mean, I said it's not entirely obvious. Unfortunately, I own a site condominium unit on the other side of the state, which is serviced by dirt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where this happened, it was a phase 2, and developer never completed any of the any utility improvements or anything like that, but that's my problem, that's not a municipal problem. you
Right,
know?
right.
So,
Todd, are you comfortable with a 7-unit A and 3-year performance bond fallback for the system?
I am comfortable from a system perspective on that.
Any further discussion? Anybody got heartburn over anything else?
I guess I would also like to add, I appreciate that the developer offered the rental and ownership restrictions. I think in general, the more people own the places that they live, the better they care for things, the better they treat their neighborhood, they have ownership. It's less of a short-term commitment, so I think that was good overall for the bylaws and the development.
Okay, well then I think I will make a motion that we recommend this change to the township, incorporating the 5 items in the staff write-up and adding item 6, developer shall provide a completion bond for the required 12-inch water main extension on Patterson. Any other wording to that?
if to be completed, or to ensure completion within 36 months of project start.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table.
Second the motion?
Support. This is a roll call vote as well.
Yes,
Stan?
please.
Support.
Yes.
Tim? John says yes.
Donovan says yes.
Diane says yes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
On to the next item. I think we have new business consisting of a discussion. Well, let's see, public comment first. Is there anybody that wants to talk? I guess not. Commissioners' comments. I guess I have one comment. You may have noticed I have missed a couple meetings and have come to the conclusion that I don't have the passion required to keep maintaining a fair balance on the board. So I have let Brian know that I'm asking to be released from the commission. I will serve until he finds a replacement.
Okay.
How about if we just vote no on it?
Yeah, we don't want
Vote
that.
whatever you want. No, I've been retired for a year, and I find that I live without a calendar now, and it's just too easy not to pay attention, so I don't think
Did you enjoy that?
I love that, I love that.
Right.
Correspondence and staff updates, maybe this is
Sure.
where the discussion of industrial.
Yeah, a couple things I just wanted to share. Reminder that we have the joint meeting with the township board on the 16th. And that's at 5:30. We will be bringing in pizza. We've got a robust agenda for that, and there will be a packet that's going out to you in advance. I'm working on it now. So we're going to be talking about rural character, some of the changes to the Land Division Act and the impact that might have on, growth and development here in the township. We're going to talk about that M6, 68th Street corridor, industrial development, and then some quick comments that we've had about sidewalk requirements from some developers. So we wanted to bring that to your attention and then just give you an overall update on the Township Parks and Trails plan that's being developed. So we have that meeting until about 6:50, and then we have Planning Commission directly after that.
Okay.
And we have 2 site condominiums coming in for residential development for that meeting. So that's all we have on the agenda. I did not get any projects in for the March meeting, the first meeting in March, so it looks like we may not meet that date to be determined, but it's looking like we won't. And then in terms of the other items in your packet, and we don't have to discuss this today necessarily, but I did make the changes you suggested to the architectural standards that include the standards for industrial development. I also had a great conversation with the Michigan Power MPSC about generators and some of the limitations and sound that emanates from generators, and they had some suggestions to some of the language, so I made some minor modifications related to the decibel levels. He basically said that if any generator is going to be placed on an industrial property, because of the size that they are, like the minimum size, there will be a sound study required because of the decibel levels. If we're keeping that decibel level, I think it's at 65.
60 at the property line?
Yeah.
I think it's 60 at the property line.
Oh, I realized this didn't copy double-sided. I'm sorry about that.
And I did
Okay.
notice one thing on the format too, Renee.
Yeah.
You start off with, you know, different types of occupancies, and the only one we have listed is commercial, and then there's a completely different, like, it seems to me the industrial requirements should be listed right after the commercial ones, just for format's sake.
Got it. I will work on that, and I apologize for not having the double-sided. So
That's okay.
let me, the print version, I know the digital is correct, but, okay, I will work on those things. As a reminder, this would apply to any industrial development, and Diane, as I've been driving around the township since our last meeting, the new Grand Rapids aseptic, I think it's called, so it's the building that is the furthest to the north on Patterson, right before M6.
Okay.
I feel like that building has a look and feel that we might be going for some of the industrial buildings.
Yeah, it would, because Tim and I used to work for the guys that designed it.
Yeah, there you go.
I did want to say, you talk about generators, and we had that sort of spurious email that Brian got about data centers.
Yep,
That is a very substantial discussion
yes.
that we're not at all prepared for at this point. And that's the one thing that made me think, oh, do you really want to quit the planning commission now? But yeah, I probably do. But one thing I would say is, just up the road at Switch, you have the closest thing to that scale of a data center that exists in West Michigan. And so I don't know if the township up there would be able to give us any insight on what their requirements have been. But I would think you would want to make your requirements for a facility like that performance-based, and we would need to research what are the metrics and what are the highest level of performance. People always worry about there's no water now, there's no electricity. Well, there's different ways to build those things, and there's different standards for them. So if we were to require a high performance rather than just a huge volume at a low performance, that might help us. I do think it's kind of a steamroller that's going to hit a lot of communities, because nobody's thought about what that means yet.
Yeah. I do believe there's consideration of, a moratorium on them, so that we can be prepared and develop some of those performance-based standards that you're talking about. Right now, the data center use is permitted in our industrial districts. Now that use was permitted back in 2008. And I looked up, the first iPhone came out in 2007. So like, that is so early in technology.
Yeah, we were still putting raised floors in computer rooms.
Yeah, we never even conceived of like cloud-based computing and the needs that we all have, storing all of our pictures here versus printing. So to me, that says that we need to kind of reconsider what that means for our township and what those standards might be. So this would apply to all industrial. And then I could see that a data center use might be a special land use. And then we would have additional performance-based standards in that section of the code. And then the last thing that I put in your packet, all of the planning commissioners and zoning board of appeals members and officials are eligible to do training. So we know that being a member of the planning commission might bring new opportunities, new topics that you might want to learn more about. So this is just from the Michigan Association of Planning, but there are other entities like the Michigan Township Association. They have a conference every year. I believe it's in Lansing. It's coming up in the next month and a half. We reimburse for these educational opportunities. So if anything seems interesting to you, let me know, and Allison can get you signed up and get that paid for. So again, this is just one of them, but there are others as well.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Great.
Support, all in favor? Aye. We're gone.
He's gone.
Nobody ever says no
Have a
to
good
that.
game.
What do you think with, I kinda looked at this, this was like something.
So since I can't do the
data
next
center
meeting,
stuff.
do I get a meal
Building over
voucher?
on 40